Hey guys, it's going to be a very interesting Saturday. Today we are here at the JPM Museum where it houses one of the largest collection of private cars in Malaysia with over 100 cars on display. Now we're going to get a private tour and check out some really rare cars that we don't usually get to see. So come with us as we see what exactly JPM Museo has to offer. So guys, I'm going to be holding the mic like this because as you can see, there are a lot of people around here for this private tour. So just to ensure that, you can hear me loud and clear. So yeah, I'm going to totally wing it and hold this mic in my hand right now. So don't mind the avant-gardeness. But anyway, we're going to start out with this Perodua Kancil simply because there's an interesting story about this Kancil. So this museum, the JP Museo, is owned by one of Malaysia's eminent car collectors, Mr. JP Chin. And just about under a year ago, he made the news when he bought this Perodua Kancil. Why is that a big deal? Because this is a guy that owns a Bugatti, Devo, a Chiron, or multiple supercars, right? And when a person like that goes and buys a Perodua Kancil, it becomes the news. So he restored this, and perhaps he single-handedly increased the values of Perodua Kancils all around Malaysia. But that's not all. If you come with me. So this is the K-car collection over here. You have the Suzuki Cappuccino, the Mazdas, the Honda S660s, and then over there you have the Toyota 280. You also have the likes of the Honda NSX. The Honda NSX is, why are these important? Well, they are self-explanatory in a sense. You also have the Mitsubishi GTO and the Honda Integra DC5. Now these are obviously cars that have been heavily involved in motorsport. These are not race cars. They are part of a private collection. I'm guessing the DC5 was part of a motorsport collection, part of a personal race car collection, because the JP family has been heavily involved in motorsports as well. So yeah, this is the JDM section. We're going to move on to try and check out the rest of the collection. We will not be able to highlight everything. There are over 100 cars here. That means you'll probably need to be watching this video for a good an hour. So yeah, we're going to try to bring you the highlights. Alright guys, so now we are at the American Muscle Car Collection. Of course, it doesn't get more American than a Hummer. So what you're seeing over here is the H1. This is the original military edition. There's a story behind this. Apparently when Arnold Schwarzenegger was shooting one of his action movies, he saw a military spec Hummer H1, and he's the one that actually kind of got the ball rolling and the demand for a civilian spec H1, hence why we got this model. So this is as close as we're going to get to a military grade Hummer H1. Over here we have the H2. I can't remember what this is called, but this is also one of the military related machineries over here. And then over here, this is basically the Japanese version of the Hummer. I can't remember what this is called either, but apparently Japan wanted to create an answer to Hummer, and hence came up with this model over here. And then this is where we are starting off with all of the hot rods collection. Apparently the story is that Mr. JP actually kind of went to America many years ago on a shopping spree and came back with 30 cars, and they're all on display over here. Man, you got to be something pretty amazing to actually be able to do something like that. Here's an interesting story. Notice that this car doesn't have any door handles. So apparently this is to avoid theft. So the way to open the door is to electronically open the door via a key. Very smart. And then as we go through here, of course, check this out. This is a Corvette LS1 engine. Superb. Everything has been painted. A lot of chrome. Very American. Then you have the Ford Thunderbird. You have this Chevy, I can't remember what it's called, but it's from 1957, and this is during the age of the space run. Countries like the Soviet Union, America were actually in a space war to kind of get to the moon first, and hence why you're seeing these rocket-like design elements over here. So that is because this actually is born in the year where this, I can't remember what it's called, I think it's the space run or space war or something like that. Then this is of course the Chevy Impala. It looks like it belongs in a Snoop Dogg music video, but it's also the car that Jeff Kennedy was kind of shot in. Not the exact car, that was a limo. It had a open top, but this is of course the same model that he was that unfortunately he was shot in. And then over here you get to the Camaros, and then this is the Corvette that is an official pace car from Daytona. This is the official pace car version, and this is the normal Americanized version, very, very typically American. So yeah, that is basically summing up the American section of the JP Museum.
That's on idle, by the way, okay?
So right now we are at the classic cars section. Now this is a mix of actually mostly American cars, but the car that you're seeing behind here, of course it's crawling with people at the moment, is the original, the first ever petrol car made. Now this is a Mercedes-Benz. Before it was even called a Mercedes-Benz, if I'm not mistaken, it was simply called a Mercedes. This is the first ever petrol car ever made. So all your Ferraris, Bugattis, Porsches can all credit this car for your existence. It's a replica. If I'm not mistaken, Carl Benz only made 18 of these. There's also, of course, there's one in the Mercedes-Benz Museum. So yes, this is the great times 10 grandfather of the automobile. And then we're coming here to the Buicks and such. But this car is the first ever mass-produced vehicle ever. So all your Kanchils and Myvis can credit this for their existence as well. This is the Ford Model T. This is the Speedster version. As you know, the Ford Model T was available in many different variants. They have it in the drop-top version that we are seeing here. Yeah, they have it in a truck version, so there's all of these variants that are available over here. This is, of course, your Buicks and such. But continuing on to continuing around the classic car theme. Of course, you can't talk about American classic cars without talking about the Cadillacs. So we have the Cadillacs over here. These are some of your movie cars that actually appeared, not these exact same cars, but they appeared in some movies. And then this was actually featured in the original Godfather scene, the Godfather movie. Very interesting detail over here. If you notice, I'm not quite sure whether you can see it, but the front part of the car is actually leather, where else the back is actually in fabric. The reason why this is so is during winter, fabric is actually warmer than leather, and leather is more hardier, so the driver gets in and out. So leather is stronger than fabric, where else the fabric is warmer. There's also a glass panel in between with a rotating knob over there, so that's for some privacy and such. So the fabric and leather combination is nothing new. We see it in Rolls-Royce as well. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Queen's Bentley is also the same. Then over here you have all your Ford Mustangs and such. interesting detail is that there's also the Ford Mustang Eleanor version over there. It's not the original Eleanor, it's a replica, but it's as close as it can get to the original as well. So, of course, you can't talk about American muscle cars without actually speaking about the Mustangs. So plenty of Mustangs over here, apparently from 1966 all the way until 1969. Alright guys, so right now we are in an extremely interesting section of the JPM Museo. This is the private race car collection as well as a classic car collection. As you can see right behind me is the McLaren P1. This is 1/3 of the Holy Trinity, the other two being the 918 Spider as well as the Ferrari, but only the P1 is displayed over here. And over here is one of my personal favorites, the AC Cobra Shelby. This is a 1-to-1 replica. It comes with a 427 engine and such a beauty. It really looks original. But that's not all. We also have the Ford GT40 replica over here. This is not just any replica. This was actually raced here in Malaysia as well. So it's actually true to form. The Ford GT40 looks amazing as well. This is the the Nissan Falcon GTR. Also raced, part of a private collection. It has a prototype engine, a Nissan RB26 prototype engine, and when the JP family actually bought it, they also got an additional engine together with it as well. So besides that, you also get the DC5 Integra that was raced at the Macau Grand Prix. You get the Ford GT3 Cup. You also get the GT3 RS. These are all part of cars that were actually raced by Mr. JP, Mr. TJ, basically by the JP Chin family. Then at the back here, we were not introduced to some of the cars back here. Let's go check out this side. The Ford, I keep saying Ford Falcon, but it's actually Falcon tires. The Nissan Falcon GTR was actually raced at the Merdeka Millennium Endurance Race, where they went up against the Lotus 300R, which actually had factory support. The 300R is a legend by itself. It's the only 300R that was ever made. Been fortunate to actually sit in that car, but this actually came up second against the Lotus 300R. And then when you come over here, this is the classic car section. This is where things get a little bit more interesting. So this is easily about 15 million ringgit worth of cars right over here. So this is the pontoon collection. This they were sharing earlier. It's about 200 or 300,000 euros at the moment. This is a beautifully restored 280. And then if you come behind here, this is the Pontiac GTO. Now this is part of the JPM Museo's film car collection. This actually is a replica of the model that appeared in the Night and Day movie. And then over here is, of course, the Gone in 60-second collection, the Ford Mustang Eleanor. Amazing looking machine. Of course, you cannot talk about movie cars without talking about Aston Martins and James Bond. So the Aston Martin car is here. This is also part of the James Bond collection, the Aston Martin V8. And then again, you cannot have a complete movie car collection without actually having the DMC DeLorean and the Herbie Volkswagen Beetle Herbie collection. But I want to show you two of my personal favorite models. Let's do this. This SLR McLaren. I remember reading about this in the 1999 Autocar magazine. I might as just give away my age at the moment, but this is an amazing looking machine. We will never see a car like this again because Mercedes and McLaren have obviously split, and we will never see a collaboration like this, such as this ever again. Now this was the continuation of the McLaren F1, not in terms of performance or machinery, but in terms of collaboration. This is a legend by itself. So is this, the SLS MG. Beautiful looking machine, one of my personal favorites. I hope to be able to afford one day, and this will forever go down in history as possibly the last ever gull-wing Mercedes or any other model, simply because after this model came out, the judges of the world suddenly realized that, hey, if you ever were to flip this car, there's no way for you to actually crawl out because the doors open upwards. So the screws at the top of the car actually come with mini explosives that actually explode the car outwards, so you can actually crawl out the car. So amazing collection. I think this entire floor over here has about 30 to 40 million ringgit worth of cars. Brilliant. It's a car collector's dream. I mean, look at this. Look at this pontoon. Look at the shine on it. It's just so beautifully restored. So now we are at the European section of the JPM Museo, and this is where, obviously, as the name suggests, is where all the European cars are placed, such as this Ferrari 308. My knowledge about Ferraris from the 70s and 80s is actually not that great, but I do know that this is a 355 and this is a 599. Then, obviously, you go on to the 430s. These are, as we were told, some of the more normal Ferraris that they have, but this is actually quite unique. This is the 599 GTO, which, as we were told earlier, is one of the loudest Ferraris ever made. This actually shares the same engine as the Enzo. And then, of course, the Aventador was described as one of the cheapest Lambos currently in the JPM collection. And then you move over here. This is the Murcielago SVR, the Diablo. This is actually in a very unique gold color. And then this is the Countach. Such a beautiful car. The one car that started the design language, the low slung, sharp nose design language for all Lamborghinis ever since. Now let's move this side. This is the 599 GTO again. Such a beautiful looking machine. And then we get the Volkswagen Carmen Gears. We will see this every once in a while in classic car gatherings and such. This is, I think, the 928 or the 944. Yep. Then you get, before we get to the Porsches, that is the very unique BMW 850 CSI. That's actually a V12 version. Very cool, very clean. Obviously has been maintained very well. And then let's move over to the 911 collection. This is the 911R. This is actually a manual 911. Was supposedly to be the final manual 911 ever to be made. Obviously not. So Porsche renegade on its word, and hence ever since we've seen cars like the GT3 Touring that are still available with a manual transmission. This though is the final 911 that is available with a 4-liter engine. This is the 911 4.0. If I'm not mistaken, this is the final 911 with a 4-liter engine, and then this is where we get all the classic Porsches, such as the 930 Turbo, the first ever turbocharged Porsche. So the 930 Turbo, and this is the original 911 Turbo, which has been described as the original Widowmaker simply because of the turbo lag that came with it. And then these are just a collection of classic Porsches in the JPM Museum collection. Obviously a very big Porsche lover, huge. Kind of like how this Volkswagen has been restored. It's totally slammed. It comes with a canvas roof. Amazing looking. This is I'm a huge Porsche fan, so this is totally at home for me. Then you come here again. The brilliant thing is, all these cars have been so beautifully kept. It's air conditioned, it's temperature controlled. I mean, the RS 4.0 is an absolute legend by itself. Amazing. But it's not here. We are not done though. So right now we are at the British section. So this is where we are going to see the likes of course, MG, Mini, and of course, it doesn't get more British than Jaguar. We saw the Aston Martins earlier, but yes, more Jaguars over here. This is quite a unique one. This is the Project 7. The Jaguar Project 7 sounds amazing. It's a V8. Then of course, this gorgeous, I can't remember if there's the F-Type or the E-Type. So this is, obviously, check out the classic lines, the classic proportions of the long bonnet and rearwards cabin. Because this is also a Jaguar. This is one of the most, if not the fastest car in the world from the 1940s. My classic car knowledge is not that great, admittedly so. But I do know it was the fastest car in the world in the 40s. I can't remember exactly which year that was. And then we of course go to the Morgan Arrow. This is a Frankenstein of sorts because this is actually a British car maker utilizing a German engine. Check out how short the front overhangs are. So the front wheels obviously have been moved as forwards as possible. Apparently they're doing really well as well. Then obviously, as British as it can get as well is Lotus, and probably the only Rolls-Royce that I've seen in this entire collection, the Rolls-Royce Corniche from the 60s. So finally we are at the motorcycle collection of the JPM Museo, and there are a lot of Harley Davidsons and such, but this is probably the most unique model in the collection, a World War II Harley Davidson. Now this is not just any Harley Davidson, this is one of those bikes that actually served in war. How can you tell? It's from this holster over here. Now this is an original holster. Back in those days, the soldiers used to ride these things, and if they came under fire, their rifles used to be placed over here so that they can react very quickly. So this is one of those models that actually saw action back in those days. So this, I'm totally flabbergasted by, totally blown away by, because it's not just a replica. It's a real World War II machine. This bike saw some real action. But besides that though, you can tell that everything else is basically a part of modern, basically modern bikes. You don't see any super bikes here and all. In fact, not much. I'm totally blown away by the World War II bike. So that's it then, guys. The largest private car collection, and a little bit of motorcycles, of course, in Malaysia. How do you get access to this? Because after all, it is a museum. In fact, the JPM Museum has been around for quite a while, but only now is it starting to open its doors to the public. And the way that you can get in is to buy JPM merchandise here at the JPM Museum for 180 ringgit. 180 ringgit per person gets you a private guided tour. And guess what? You can bring your kids. Just make sure that you keep all hands and bags away from those precious cars. Thank you for watching. Do consider subscribing.